Hey guys, it's Gavin here, and we are on the road, and I wanted to take a minute. We're headed down to Texas at the moment, going to a conference for my work. I wanted to take a minute to talk about these new national monuments. National monuments. That sounds really nice, right? Preserving the land for our generations to come, these beautiful places. Well, yes, being a conservationist is not a bad thing. Preserving the land, national monuments. So Obama signed 2 national monuments in this week, and guess what? There's one called Bears Ears. Now this is in Utah, and there's another one not far to show you here. This one is causing quite a stir. This is Gold Butte. Now this is an area I've spent quite a bit of time down around. And you see right here, here's a map of this. Here's Interstate 70. Right in here is the Bundy Ranch, okay? Right in here's the Bundy Ranch. Here's the legend. So about 5 miles away from the Bundy Ranch, right on the land around here, where the Bundys have been improving the land, and other ranchers, not just the Bundys, but they're pretty much the only ones standing. Right on this land that Harry Reid tried to attack the Bundy family over, and has violated their rights, and that our federal government is still violating their rights over, as them and many other political prisoners sit in jails. Suddenly this is a national monument. Now, I've been to this area down there. I've driven those back roads up in there with Arden Bundy, looked at the improvements the ranchers made. It's beautiful country up there, beautiful desert country with a lot of neat things. Here's the thing, guys, and this is what's going to come up. I want to talk about this. Number one, this isn't just an Obama thing. I mean, yes, absolutely, Obama is a corrupt tyrant, don't get me wrong, but let's not kid ourselves. See, the first thing that happens is we try to make this about this partisan thing. Both parties have sold us out, guys, and I'm going to give you a couple ways really fast here that they've sold us out. Number one, we have this Antiquities Act. Guys, Congress does not get to make a law that gives the president some magical power that he doesn't have. The United States Constitution is what grants the authority of the President of the United States. It's what enumerates the powers of the federal government and the Congress. Did you guys know that the federal government was meant to be the smallest branch of government? And this was one of the great arguments for it back in the Federalist Papers as they were debating this. Alexander Hamilton and the others are like, look, this is going to be a small branch of government. It's going to be small, it's going to be limited, and so what have we done? We've just expanded. But it's not just recent Democrats, guys. It's not just the Harry Reids and the Obamas. You want to know who one of the biggest pioneers of all these national parks and lands was? Theodore Roosevelt. He was a Republican, guys. It's not about the party. It's not about the faction. Theodore Roosevelt signed the Antiquities Act. He made 18 national monuments. What did he do? Let me just look here. I had it here. 51 bird preserves and game preserves, 150 national forests. Okay? I mean, this is land grabber extraordinaire, guys. Now, maybe people might say, well, his intentions were good. He wanted to preserve the land. The thing is, the federal government's job is not to preserve the land. Let's go to Bears Ears in Utah. Okay? People are going to say, well, these are beautiful places. We want them preserved. Guys, have you ever been to Utah? Have the people that say these things ever been to Gold Butte? It's not like people are down there destroying this. The locals, the ranchers, they preserve these lands. Utah is filled with natural resources, and they're a huge asset to that state. It's a state full of state parks, far more than it has national parks. And so the government comes in, the federal government says, oh, we're going to create this so we can control it. This is about control. It's not about preserving land for our heritage. And to those on the left, to those on the different sides that say, oh, I want this land preserved, guys, this same federal government is the same federal government imprisoning people and corrupting our courts, from the Lakota in North Dakota to the Bundys in Nevada to every jail across this nation and every courtroom across this nation. They're the ones that are in bed with the big corporations, with big oil, with big money, whose politicians have sold out. The federal government The federal government isn't going to save us. The federal government is not going to preserve our lands. Okay, well, what's next then, right? What's next? Well, these are still good lands. They need to be preserved. Guys, lands can be preserved without the federal government. States have been doing it for hundreds of years. And these valuable places that we treasure. Look, I'm a naturalist. I'm an image maker. I'm an artist. I love nature. But when I learned the Constitution, when I learned what the federal government is really about, when I learned these things, I realized the federal government doesn't preserve our heritage. The federal government destroys our heritage. The federal government doesn't preserve lands. It profits from them. The federal government doesn't free nature. It enslaves the people. Hey, John. The federal government doesn't preserve nature. It enslaves us. Now, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 is clear on the federal government's authority on land, but even for those not educated on the Constitution, we all know the federal government's not our friend. So let's stop pretending when one thing comes up, oh, now they're going to be our friend. And both sides of the factions need to do this. We have to stop dividing on faction. Now, let's talk about our local politicians. You know, you go to Utah, right? And so the Utah politicians, they're kind of up in arms about this. People are saying, oh, they're not happy. They're going to do something, right? But they're not. But they're not, because they don't really represent you. They don't really have the courage to do anything. See, the state government, your state legislature, doesn't need to sue. They don't need to ask permission to stop the forming of Bears Ears. The Nevada legislature doesn't need to ask permission to stop the forming of the Gold Butte. The Utah state government doesn't need to ask permission to start managing the national parks on their own. Guys, these guys are all complicit going along with it. They may not really like it, but they're going to go along with it because they're going to play along with the system of corrupt courts and corrupt politicians and corrupt presidents. And don't think it's going to change because we see a change of administration. The new administration fully supports controlling federal lands that they have no right to control. Now, I hope that changes, and you do too, but let's not kid ourselves. We need to get serious. We need to start calling out our local politicians, our state legislatures, and our congressmen that are acting like, oh, we don't really like this at all. We don't really like this at all, but there's nothing we can do. Our hands are tied. You're right, John. A real representative would call out the militia, which is the people, as the founding fathers intended it. It's all of us. Who would say, no, the federal government's supposed to be limited as the founding fathers, as our laws intended it. Real representatives and a real legislature. Guys, back in the founding in the American spring, you know who was making declarations against the British? It wasn't just a couple of ragtag rebels. It was the legislatures. It was the legislative bodies of the colonies that were making declarations against the British. Your legislators who are acting like, oh, we don't like this, but there's nothing we can do. That's nonsense. All the state of Utah has to do, all the state of Nevada has to do is say no. See, this isn't really just about Democrat or Republican or Obama or the White House. This is about a completely sold out government from state to federal to local who lives in fear and in terror, who operates on false security. Some of the largest swaths of stolen federal government land, from our forests to land stolen from the natives, was under these parties, Republican, Democrat. That's not what it's about. It's about starting to hold people accountable. It's about us standing up. Let's not forget that little treasonous piece called the Patriot Act. What party made that, guys? What party made that? We all know. See, we have traitors among us. We have crooks among us. These lands are not being preserved for us. No question about it. Of course, Obama's in someone's pocket. Of course, it's corrupt. But we need to get focused on us. We're the ones letting this happen. We're the ones letting political prisoners from the Bundys to the natives to Jeff Winehouse, to Schaefer Cox, our ranchers, our farmers. Joe Robertson. We're letting people rot in prison while we sit out here and do little ditties and sing little songs and say what politician will save us next. This has to fall to the people. You have to start standing up. You have to start disrupting. People are always saying, Gavin, you're looking for 15 minutes of fame. You're being rude. You're disrupting. You're not respectful. You know what? Great respect of lawful authority requires a disrespect of unlawful authority. It requires that we speak out against it and calling out. What we can do about it is stop pandering to factions and politicians. Stop shouting the names of whatever new politician is on our lips as if they're our savior. Start speaking out. Start using our voice like I'm using now. Start going out into the field and being defiant against their lawless laws. Build a forest. Find those 3 people that you can stand with. Plant a tree and build a forest that's resistance of this tyranny and that we can stand up. The Constitution is clear. Human rights are clear. But I'm seeing all factions, guys, divide against each other. I had this pro-Trump page yesterday calling me, oh, Gavin's just some libtard nut job. We need to throw him out. And so they banned me from this group that I was in, right? As if that's really going to hurt me. But they don't even know. People don't even know what Republican and Democrat and liberal and conservative means. Guys, I got news for you. The founding fathers were liberals. Now, the Democrats we have today are not liberals. They're more like social fascists. The Republicans we have today are not Republicans. They don't defend or support the Republic or our constitutions. They're controlling fascists. We need to stand up. So we got these new national monuments. It's just one little piece of the tyranny growing in every one of your counties, from every one of your lawless sheriffs, your lawless legislatures, your lawless federal government. The change starts with you. And you're going to have to decide. Are you going to stand up? Are you going to start sticking your neck out? Like John Ritzheimer, like the Bundys, like Lavoie. Are you going to start speaking out like me and my family do, like Kelly Stewart does, like John Lamb does? Are you going to start turning the world upside down for liberty and justice and throw off your faction and love your neighbor as yourself? Or are you going to bow down and live in fear as a slave and pass that on to your future generations? Pass it on to these guys. It's up to you. All right, we got to get on the road. We're heading down towards Texas. We'll talk to you guys soon. Get the word out. These monuments are lawless, but it's more than just conservative politics, and we don't want Obama making new monuments. This is about freedom. And get out there for Joe Robertson. Get out there for the Bundys. Follow Lindsay there. She's got events going on down there. Thanks, John. You guys keep standing. We need more of us, guys. We've got to quit just talking on Facebook. God help us.